You've got good, good energy knocking at your door. You've got good, good energy. We can make it more. We can make it more. We can make it more. Good energy.
I'm Marcy Shea Perry. I'm the very proud executive director of Camp Trillium. I'm also a rider, 160K today.
Hi, my name is Robert Hansen, and I've been with Camp Trillium for 11 years, and I'm here with the music project. Woo!
Hi there. My name is Joel Thomas Gadding. I've been with Camp Trillium since 1992. This is my third year with Tour for Kids, and I'm a volunteer for Rest Stop number 4.
So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Alex Martin.
Hi, well, the one thing I always thought was amazing about camp is that it made children and parents' lives normal. But after watching that video, it makes me wonder how that ever happens. It's a great pleasure to talk to you tonight. I have about 10 minutes worth of stories, thoughts, some ways that what camp does actually is what researchers talk about and actually puts that into action, and how it's changed my life and the life of families affected by childhood cancer. So a few memories, I'll start with those, and I hope I can create a mental picture for you. I worked at summer camp as a camp counselor for about 8 summers because I went to graduate school for so long to become a doctor. I had many summers. And one of my summers, I remember we took several teenagers on a canoe trip. And there was one gentleman who had a brain tumor. He had been diagnosed that year, and his prognosis was not very good. And he had been very athletic before that. And we canoed for the whole day, and he was quite tired. He would sit in the middle at times. He was used to playing whatever AAA hockey and running and so on. And at the end of the day, we all were jumping off this rock into the water, and the kids were jumping and screaming things. You know the way kids do. They scream ketchup, or they scream cowabunga, and that's what everybody was screaming. But this guy, he screamed, "I love life and I love camp," and then he went into the water. And that's certainly one major, major moment that I remember. And unfortunately, he didn't make it back to the next summer's camp. And that was very sad, but we all really enjoyed the time that we had with him, of course. I also remember the impact that camp had on other children's lives who also had sad stories. Children who chose to wear their Camp Trillium t-shirt in their casket when they died. Children who asked to go to camp for their last weeks of life when they knew that it was their last weeks. And not just campers, but parents chose this, and also summer staff. Many of the staff and LITs who are at camp, people who are learning to become camp counselors, are campers from previous years. They come to mentor others, to show that they can be done, that they're there to support them. And I think that's quite amazing. The amazing thing on a happy side of cancer is actually that now about 80% of children survive childhood cancer. Now, of course, that depends on the type of cancer, but 80% of children survive cancer. That's amazing. That means that these kids who are coming to camp will go on to live long lives. And now, having been involved with Camp Trillium for about 18 years, seeing the young children who are in the cabin at age 6, they're now in university, they're now nurses or doctors or teachers or engineers, and it is amazing that life goes on. And I think that's where camp really comes in. For many years, the research demonstrated that when a child was diagnosed with cancer, everyone treated them differently. And they didn't just treat the child differently, they treated the siblings differently, the parents differently, and these children and the families grew up differently. And therefore, they had a lot of other problems on top of the cancer diagnosis. For instance, increased rates of divorce, increased rates of family breakdown, siblings feeling left out, being the odd ones on the street or in the school. Well, camp changes all that. Camp makes them normal again. It helps them create friendships with people who understand. It creates an opportunity to sit and talk about cancer, or to not talk about cancer at all and just go kick a ball, or jump in a kayak, or go skiing in the winter. And that's what camp really is all about, is giving families, and whether that's children diagnosed with cancer, their siblings, their parents, the choice. They can come to camp, they can talk about cancer with people who get it. They can also choose not to talk about cancer, and they can just go off and have fun. And I think the amazing thing is that because camp goes for so many days, you're there for a week or 2 weeks, is the interweaving of this. There's laughter one moment, tears the next, hugging with your cabin mate the next. I remember sitting with some kids, they were unpacking their bags after we went for a camping trip. And the kids were like, oh, that was awesome when you tipped out of the canoe, that was so funny. Oh, remember the song at the campfire? And then the kid, the next sentence goes, what kind of leukemia do you have? And the other kid said, oh, AML. And they said, oh, that's interesting, that's what my brother had. And then they went back to, oh, the marshmallows were so tasty. And you just think, this is kids. This is the way they see their world, and cancer is a part of their normal world. And camp helps them discover that. I think the amazing thing about Camp Trillium is that Camp Trillium starts that in the summer. They start great relationships at summer camp, outside, playing and doing, but they keep that going all year, and that's extremely important. Families who are affected by cancer undergo a great roller coaster year-round. They might be doing very well one summer, they might experience a relapse in midwinter or admission to ICU, and the connections to camp help keep them strong throughout all of that, and that's what's so important about year-round programs, and also programs that are there for the entire family. Siblings, and the research shows this, that siblings are often the most left out of a family group. You might be very familiar with the child who's diagnosed with cancer. The neighbors all come over, they bring gifts for the child in the hospital. Where's the young sibling? Sometimes in the basement, sometimes at grandmother and grandfather's house. They're feeling left out of the whole story. I remember talking to some siblings, they were either very young when it happened to their family that their sibling was diagnosed with cancer, and they asked as a teenager, hey Alex, you knew my family when my son or my brother was diagnosed a few years ago. What was that like? What went on? What did he have? My parents never told me. I was left out. And that's where camp can come in, is bringing us all together. Often parents have difficulty talking about it, and camp provides a safe environment for them to connect as family and to start talking about cancer together. Let's see if I have a few others. I think the one thing, having been around the world, I've been to about 6 cancer camps. Some in Ireland, Australia, United States, others in Canada. And I think the amazing thing about Camp Trillium, and what's kept me connected to them for 18 years, which I think is quite an incredible length of time, is, I guess 2 things. Is one, how far Trillium stretches its dollar. A lot of fun can be had with a piece of string, literally a piece of string, or an old sock that becomes a soccer ball. That's actually the reality of childhood. I don't think children necessarily need a hot air balloon ride, or to go whitewater rafting, or things that might be very expensive. In fact, to some children it's scary to be given all these very expensive options. They think, am I dying? They must be thinking this, these adults, because they're giving me all these expensive things. And I think Trillium realized that, and research demonstrates that children do very well when they're treated as normal. They're treated to be normal children, they have behavior management as if they're normal children, and they grow up playing with sticks and stones, or whether it's an old book or whatever it is. To them what's important is experiencing, playing, and building relationships. And I'll leave on that last note, what you don't see about camp, if you volunteer at camp you see it, or if you're a part of camp you see it, but if you donate to camp you see great photos. What's behind those photos is the most important thing about any camp in the world, and particularly those for children with cancer and their families, and that is relationships and friendship. And those treating people as normal people who are going through a rough time. And that rough time changes. It could be good one year, bad the next, good the next year, bad the next year. And this roller coaster goes on for a very long time, and for the most part for life actually, because when a child is diagnosed with cancer, the child, their sibling, and their parents always wonder, is this it? Is this cold, the cancer coming back? What will happen to me now? Will I be able to have children? So this is an ongoing need, and these relationships that Trillium builds over a long period of time are sustained, are important, and are the most important part. And I thank you all very, very much for supporting financially what camps like Camp Trillium does in building very key friendships.
You've got good energy knocking at your door. You've got good energy. We can make it more.